This is the third and final part of my answer to a question. What have you learnt from your audience feedback? Now this is regarding my film poster. To start with, I created a really basic and rough version of what I wanted my poster to look like. I created this on PowerPoint and then put it on Facebook to get some audience feedback. The feedback I got was a little negative, but it was good because it showed me that I had a lot of improvement to do. The first improvement that needed doing was to make the slogan, the tagline, smaller, because this was becoming the same size as the actual film name, which isn't very conventional in film posters. And my target audience said that it looked a bit odd, it looked a little out of place and needed making smaller. The general feedback from all my target audience who commented on this status on Facebook was that everything needed reducing in size. So the tagline, Anger Masted, and then all the credits and things, it all needed reducing in size. And if we look to my actual finished magazine, you can see that I have reduced pretty much everything in size, and it now looks a lot more conventional and a lot better. So I learned from my audience feedback that everything needed to be smaller, and in the end when I did this change it looked a lot better. On my second draft of my poster that I put up on Facebook, I've reduced the tagline of my film a little bit, but not as much as I needed to, or not as much as I ended up doing for my end product. But I added the image, and that was the main thing I wanted feedback on for this version. So when I put it on Facebook, the general feedback from my target audience was that the photograph didn't look right. I know I'd manipulated it a lot, made it look redder and a deeper colour than it originally was when I took the photograph. But my target audience, the feedback was mainly that it was the wrong sort of picture for it, and that it looked a bit odd, and that my lead male character looked like he'd been cut out and stuck on. And I think this was due to the manipulation I did on the photograph. And in the end, because of this feedback, I thought that the photograph probably wasn't right at all for my poster. And also it highlighted to me that I needed to orientate the poster differently. So instead of it being portrait, it needed to be landscape. And just so that I could fit everything in that I wanted to, and use a landscape image as well. So this audience feedback really helped me to change my film poster and to realise that I needed to take different photographs and change the layout quite a lot. I then changed my poster from portrait to landscape for the next version of my poster that I created, and I also used some different imagery. I've been looking on Google at some examples of film posters, and I found that they never just used one image, like one photograph that had been taken. They always merged one or two together, so I thought I would use this convention and merge 3 photographs together for my poster. I then got some audience feedback on this poster, and this came from my media class. All my media class agreed that this was much better than the previous poster that they'd seen, but they still thought that everything needed reducing in size, particularly the social networking logos. My class said that they needed reducing in size a lot, because conventionally they would be a tiny thing on the poster. So this feedback was really helpful, as it helped me to reduce the size of my social networking logos, and also rearrange some of the other things on my page based on their feedback. I then got some feedback off my target audience on a new and improved version of my poster. I'd drastically reduced the size of the social networking logos on this draft, based on previous feedback. And I'd also reduced the size of my tagline, and I'd set my actress Sarah, her image, more transparent on this poster, just to give it a better effect and make it look more ghostly and more horror style. The feedback that I got off my girlfriend Emily was very positive, but then again I sort of expected it to be. So she said that she really liked the layout, the photographs, the way that I'd added a transparency onto the image of Sarah, and she said that it looked distinctly horror, and she liked the way I'd added a website at the bottom because that's conventional with most film posters. I then got some feedback off my friend James as well, and although he was a little disappointed that he himself wasn't on the poster, seeing as he's in my trailer, he seemed to like the poster quite a lot. He did question whether the word beyond was meant to be higher than the words far and obsession, but they were. Beyond was supposed to be higher than the other two. So for my final version of the poster, I hired that word a little more, just to make sure that it looked intentional and not by mistake. And then James also questioned the transparency of Sarah, saying that it was a little too transparent. However, after asking some of the members of my class about whether it was too transparent or not, the members of my media class I asked said that it looked good how it was. So I made the executive decision to keep it the way it was. The audience feedback that I received for my poster was pretty crucial, and without it my poster would have looked atrocious. You can see that there's a drastic change between the first draft of my poster and my final poster, and this is all down to my audience feedback. I've learnt a hell of a lot this time round from my audience feedback, and I'm quite glad that I got the feedback I did. Otherwise I probably would have stuck with my original idea of a portrait poster with a tiny image in the middle with a giant tagline, and it would have looked awful. So I'm really glad that I listened to my audience feedback and I got as much feedback as I did. So overall, to answer this question, I learned a lot from my audience feedback, and it really did shape my overall poster. And that's my answer to the third part of this question regarding my poster.